Hello and welcome to Belariossa Cooking with Injuries. Now, I don't know about you, but a morning's a little bit difficult to be able to have a good breakfast. They are for me too. So that is where my breakfast inspired slices and muffins come from. Today's recipe is an Anzac Inspired Breakfast Slice. So I really hope you enjoy it. Let's get into making it. For this, we've got 130 grams of rolled oats, and we'll put that into the bowl. Then we've also got 280 grams of water. Now, I don't know if you know this, but oat milk is pretty much just water and oats. So have a look at this. Can you see that there's already some different colouring coming out through it? So if we were to strain that off, we would have oat milk, basically. The next thing we're going to be adding is 80 grams of coconut flour. The reason why I flipped it to coconut flour is because coconut flour has a little bit more nutritional value than plain flour, apparently. And we're going to add 20 grams of desiccated coconut. Now, I know you might be surprised about that, but what makes an actual Anzac cookie is that it has golden syrup and coconut. So let's add that in. The next thing that we're going to add are 2 eggs. We're also going to preheat the oven to 160 degrees. As I've explained in a previous video, the benchtop oven functions the exact same as a normal standard kitchen oven. I just prefer to use a benchtop oven because it is at bench height, so I'm not bending over. Definitely not a necessity, it is just a personal preference. So the next thing we're going to add to this is a tablespoon of chia seeds. The chia seeds can act as an egg replacement, but as you can see, we've already got eggs in it. So the main reason why I added chia seeds to this recipe is because of the information that apparently chia seeds have got a lot of nutritional benefit. So that was the only reason. And maybe like me, you've got a whole packet of chia seeds in the cupboard that you're wanting to try and use up in different ways. But admittedly, the chia seeds do add a very lovely texture to this slice. The next item we're going to be adding is 125 grams of golden syrup. Next, we're going to add 50 grams of sugar. This just balances out between the golden syrup because if too much golden syrup, you kind of get a bit of a bitter flavour. So this is just to balance that out. And we're going to be adding a tablespoon of olive oil. We're also going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And the last ingredient we're going to add is 30 grams of crushed cashews. I found by adding the cashews to the recipe, I didn't need to add quite as much sugar. So if you don't want to add the cashews, you might want to add more sugar to the recipe. As you can see here, I've got whole cashews. So the way that I'm going to crush these is I'm going to grab a little baggie. And I could use a rolling pin, but I don't feel like cleaning up after a rolling pin. So instead, I'm going to use my water bottle and just crush down on it. Maybe use it to roll over it. I'm going to add my crushed cashews to the recipe. And now I'm going to mix all these ingredients together. Now that that's all mixed together, we'll grab a slice tin. And because I want my cleanup to be as easy as possible, I'm going to put some baking paper into the tin. Now, there are 2 different options here. I could put some butter on the base of the tin so that the baking paper sticks to it, but then I have to clean that up. So instead, I'm just going to lay the baking paper on top, and you'll see, because this mixture is quite wet, When I dump it into the middle, the paper kind of falls into place. So from here, I can just move it back to the center, press into the corners, and all I'm doing here is pressing this side into the corner, and then see I'm making that fold back over. Press into the corner, make that fold back over. Press this side into the corner, we've got that little bit, folding that back over. And on the fourth side, press one side into the corner, it's made that little lump, and we're gonna fold that over. So I hope you could see through the camera what I was doing. So now that the baking paper is upright, I'm just gonna squash this through. Now that that is evenly pushed out and pushed into all the corners, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the baking paper down. This is just a personal preference because I find that what is sticking up tends to burn in the oven. Now this slice is ready to go in the oven at 160 degrees Celsius for 40 minutes. And there we have it, it's been 40 minutes. Doesn't that just look amazing? And look at that, nice and springy. So it's fully cooked through. So let's put this onto a cooling rack. Now we're going to let this sit here and cool down, but I've got to cut off a little cheeky bit to show you what it looks like. If I was going to be having this as a breakfast slice, I'd be dividing it into 6, and yep, that's a big amount, but it's a whole breakfast. If I was going to be serving it as a slice, obviously, whatever size you're after. So let's cut in. So I've cut off a little bit, but as you can see, because it's nice and warm, it kind of fell apart in the way I cut it. Let's taste it. I am very happy to have that as a breakfast.